Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders sometime this week.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Dylan, you seem unnecessarily chipper for Thursday.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep my energy upbeat.
All right. I can appreciate that.
Okay.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good.
You have anything interesting to tell us before we get started?
Oh, no. No, not really.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Are you ready for some crime news, Dylan? Let's recap some headlines from the week.
I am. It seems like it's slowed down a little bit, but I'm sure you've pulled all the interesting bits out.
Our top story, Dylan. A Texas woman became enraged after hearing a man playing bagpipes at her local park.
Oh.
Allegedly assaulting the musician's wife and threatening to sick her judge husband on the couple, according to a news report.
So the bagpipes made her mad.
She said, "Pipe it down!"
And in her rage, she threatened to use her judge husband as a weapon.
Yes.
Oh.
Eunice Isger, 76, became inconsolably irate. I've felt that way before. When she heard Scotland native Scott Gibb playing the bagpipes in Houston's Terry Hershey Park on Monday, she confronted him aggressively with her cell phone. Gibb told the news outlet KTRK, no W there, I don't know what I was thinking. Sometimes my letters look backwards a little bit. Quote, she said, "I had no right to play here in this public park. She said, I'm going to call my husband. He's a federal judge, and he's going to make you stop."
He's going to put an injunction on bagpipes.
The thing is, Dylan, her husband is a bankruptcy judge.
So he has no authority in bagpipe court.
He has no authority in bagpipe court.
Okay.
Gibbs' wife came upon this fraught scene, spotting Isger holding her phone inches from her husband's face and started filming the elderly woman in return. Isger then allegedly took a swipe at the bagpiper's wife, hitting her cell phone. Isger's husband then showed up at the scene, but was not accused of any wrongdoing. However, the couple menacingly followed the bagpiper and his wife as they were leaving the park.
I mean, what is wrong with people?
Gibbs said, quote, "As my wife was walking, she was videoing behind her and this big guy, and the woman were chasing after her." Now, Isger suffered a black eye after she tripped while attempting to grab Gibbs' backpack.
So she injured herself trying to attack him.
Yes. Gibbs said the Scottish Isle-born instrument is typically welcomed in the Deep South. He said Texans just love the sound of the pipe, expressing that he's never had many negative responses, that most people typically love to hear him play the bagpipes.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it's cool, right? You're in a park. It's not like you need to be quiet there. There's kids playing, people having fun, being loud, here and there. And that's not something you see every day. Right?
I want to hear the pipes from the motherland, don't you?
Yeah. And I mean, it'd be one thing if it was some, place that was supposed to be, quiet and protected or something like that. But you're in a public park. Who cares?
The 76-year-old woman was arrested for assault and bodily injury, according to a police report. But yeah, she's got a big old black eye, big old shiner. I just don't understand the violence. Why does she have this rage when she hears a bagpipe?
I don't know. What makes her think that she can attack someone, basically, for doing something she doesn't like?
I don't know. And I love that she threatens with her husband, the bankruptcy judge.
What authority does the bankruptcy judge have in bagpipe court?
Well, I just don't know what authority a judge has over a noise ordinance in a park.
None.
If there is no noise ordinance. Oh, well, Dylan, just another case of some entitled person thinking they own the public.
It's so funny when these types of people fall down or hurt themselves while they're trying to, assault someone else.
Well, a lot of times in those videos where you see a person being aggressive and causing a scene and then they fall, they immediately try to blame it.
Or play the victim.
Like, look what you did to me.
Look what you made me do.
When the person's 4 or 5 feet away from them.
Yeah.
That always tickles me. Dylan, A huge search is underway for a female Navy sailor who has been missing for a week and is feared to be in danger. And I don't know why this isn't making national news, right? 21-year-old Angelina Petra Resendez was last seen around 10 a.m. Thursday of last week at her barracks in Miller Hall at Naval Station Norfolk, according to Virginia State Police. The agency has launched a critically missing adult alert for the sailor, saying that she has disappeared and that poses a credible threat to her health and safety. The NCIS, otherwise known as the Naval Criminal Investigative Service, also said that she is feared to be in danger without exactly detailing why they believe so.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, if they have some information, maybe they're keeping it close. Resendez's family is panicked because the, quote, very loving sailor never goes a day without speaking to her family. She and her sister have a 400-day streak on Snapchat.
Of communicating?
Yes.
Oh.
My daughter explained to me what a streak is. It's when you communicate with a person, like, every day.
Right.
Right. Oh, you knew that.
Well, I figured that. I didn't know that.
So 400 days in a row, she and her sister have Snapchatted.
So well over a year.
Yeah. And so every single day she talks to somebody. She's a Texas native, by the way. She just stopped existing Thursday. She spent no money, has made no calls. She just stopped, according to her mother. She says this is completely unlike Angie. Her mother said Angie does not drive and does not have a car, and that this just isn't like her at all. And they don't know, like, where she could have gotten off to without having transportation.
Well, and she's broke patterns with her family, which is always not a good sign. And raises alarm, and she's spent no money. No one's heard from her in any form or fashion. She has no vehicle to take off all of a sudden and not tell anyone. I've got to say, I'm worried for this person.
She's 5 feet tall, 110 pounds, with brown eyes and black hair. Very beautiful young lady. But, you know, we talked a couple episodes ago on the Vincent Parker episode about the crime in Norfolk and Hampton Roads.
Yeah.
And how there is a lot of violent crime there.
Yeah, Discord Allison confirmed this is the area I live in. We hear all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, Portsmouth is definitely a dangerous area. There's a lot of crime around Norfolk, around the naval bases. I think that's just a kind of a general thing.
Well, she's
Anytime
reported,
you have military bases, I think there's like crime that kind of happens just outside of those locations. At least that's been my experience.
She's reported multiple times of hearing like shots fired, stuff like that. I mean, that's just wide open crime when you're hearing guns go off.
Well, just the fact that Norfolk is so close to, 95 that goes up through like
out of Florida and all the
Coast.
way up the East Coast.
Yeah. I mean, and we all know that's like a main vein for human trafficking, for drug trafficking. So it wouldn't take much for someone to snatch you, and you could be in New York in like a couple of days or a couple hours.
Gosh,
I mean,
not even safe on a naval base.
Not even on a naval base. I mean, crime happens on naval bases. They happen on military bases all the time. You know, you'd like to think that folks who are in the military have honor and would not be the types to commit crimes, but it does happen.
Well, it's like any other group of people or citizens. You have mostly good people, and then you get some bad apples, and they hide amongst the regular folk, and they have ill intentions.
All right, Dylan. Hopefully she's found. Now, moving along, this comes to us from Fox 7, Austin, Texas. There is some chatter in this area about a possible serial killer.
Dang.
And I'll tell you why. Over 36 bodies have been found in and around Lady Bird Lake since 2022, according to data.
Over 36?
36.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, so this is what we know, Dylan. There was a body found around 7 a.m. on Tuesday of this week by a paddleboarder near Riverside Drive in South Lamar. Police say that a person called 911 to report that they saw the body near the Butler Hike and Bike Trail. While there is currently no positive ID on the person, Austin police believe that the body is likely that of a teenage boy who went missing on Sunday. A preliminary investigation into his disappearance shows that the teenager was with his family. They were kayaking and on paddleboards in the lake. The teen got out of his kayak to stand in shallow water, and investigators say he was not wearing a life jacket and had unknowingly been standing near an underwater shelf. Now, underwater shelves are a sudden drop-off in the lake, and the teen either stepped off or slipped off and did not resurface. Now, some of these deaths are accidental, but there are others that are questionable, and people are beginning to wonder if there perhaps is a serial killer, so I'll get to that part. Now, his kayak was later recovered. His life jacket and backpack were still on it. The body found in the lake was wearing the same clothes and looked to be the same demographic as the missing teen, but they're still, I guess, awaiting an identification on the body. Now, data obtained by Fox 7 Austin shows that at least 38 bodies have been found in or around Lady Bird Lake since 2022. Of those, 30 were male, and just over 60% were between the ages of 30 and 49. Only 2 teenagers were found, and that includes the body found Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the past 3 years, the causes of death have been mainly attributed to accidental drownings. Apparently, there have been suicides and drug overdoses and natural causes. Only 1 case has been ruled a murder, and about half a dozen of these cases remain unknown. But people in the area are starting to whisper and speculate. Actually, this has kind of been going on for a while. These rumors have been spreading that it's the work of a possible serial killer.
Right, and then maybe just tossing them in the lake and kind of making it look like an accident.
Well, these accidental drownings, I mean, it reminds me a lot of, what is it, the smiley face killer?
Right, yeah.
Which is another theory, you've heard about these young men who leave bars, go missing, and then they're found in a body of water
Typically rivers.
Drowned, yeah.
Not far from where they go missing from usually.
So a lot of people are beginning to wonder if this could be the work of a serial killer. And of course, police are saying there is no reason for them to believe these deaths are connected. They have no reason to suspect foul play, and that there's no trauma wounds on the corpse of the most recent body. But if that's true, it's because we know that was likely an accidental drowning.
Right.
I know a lot of times law enforcement does not want to come out and say, yes, we may have a problem. They're kind of slow moving with this sort of thing, because who wants to say, hey, we might have a possible serial killer in the area?
Yeah, but let's be honest, 38 bodies, almost 40 bodies in, inside of 4 or 5 years is a lot.
And 30 of those being men between the ages of 30 to 49 years old. I mean, that definitely kind of fits a pattern.
That does fit a pattern. It fits almost a type, if you will. And at the very least, you got a public safety issue of immense proportions. If that many people have died in or around this lake, what's going on? It's like Lake Lanier or something.
Yeah, absolutely. That was my first thought when I read this article. But, I'd heard, heard around the internet and on social media, these theories that there could possibly be a killer in the area who's targeting men, drowning them, much like the smiley face killer. So I think that's kind of been around for a while, but there doesn't really seem to be any legitimacy as far as law enforcement stating that they think there's a serial killer. So
right.
It's just one of those speculative things. But I do find it very suspect to have that many 3 years and you have 38 drownings.
That's a lot.
38 bodies in a lake. I mean, what is this, like the lake of death?
I'm no drowning expert, but I feel like that's a lot.
You think that's a lot?
And so just imagine if someone's found a way to incapacitate these people, these typically men, in a way that doesn't leave any outward signs of trauma. Say,
well, if they're suspecting some of them are drug overdoses,
right.
I mean, that would be a very easy way to incapacitate someone and then put them in the water.
Yeah, if you're knocking them out somehow with chloroform, I don't even know if that leaves any signs in your body once you breathe it in, you pass out. I don't know if that leaves behind trace amounts in your body or not. But if you figured out some way, or shooting them up with some kind of a medication, who knows? Something that doesn't leave a trace, or you have to look for specifically, and then you put them in the water when you're done doing whatever you're doing to the person. And then they drown because they're still alive and breathing. Yeah, I mean, it's possible, right?
Anything is possible, Dylan.
Damn.
In today's world, I believe anything is possible.
I'm not going swimming in this lake.
I'm not going to rule out the possibility that there are aliens or that there's some kind of demonic force in this lake drowning people. It's 2025. I think anything is possible.
It's like one of those bad 80s movies, like The Lake of Death.
Yeah. Actually, I feel like maybe we've seen this film before.
Yeah.
Yeah. We watched some Italian film years ago, and it was really horrible, but it was like zombies in a lake.
Yes, it was really
Underwater
horrible.
zombies.
Yes.
And it was Italian, so it had subtitles, and it was very, very low budget. You could tell they had like shot it in a pool with some fake plants.
Yeah.
But the zombies were like pulling
Dragging people
under.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Underwater zombies. I mean, that's possible. Like I said, at this point, I'm willing to believe anything. Dylan, this story, for some reason, feels like it's right up your alley.
Oh, do tell.
All right. In North Elba, New York, 2 hikers in the Adirondack Mountains called 911 to report a third member of their party had died, but it turned out they had taken hallucinogenic mushrooms and were mistaken.
Oh my gosh, dude. Oh, that's not cool, bro. I'm laughing, but when they called and reported this, they really believed it happened. They really truly believed it.
It's like that time that I truly believed. And I'm not going to say I was on substances, but I'm not ruling out that possibility either, okay? I will not deny or confirm that I may have been on mushrooms and believed that there was a murder at the end of our street and there were tons of police down there. And I
Right.
was really convinced this happened. And then you looked around the corner and you're like, there's nothing.
And you wanted to go talk to the police?
No, I didn't want to talk to the police. I just wanted to know what was happening.
Well, and I told you stay in the yard,
I
or
wanted to like hide in the bushes and see like what was happening.
stay in our yard. It's midnight, and we don't want to talk to any police in any form or fashion.
I could have helped solve a crime that didn't happen,
Oh my
Dylan.
gosh.
Trust me, I'm basically a detective. I host a true crime podcast.
So what happened?
Well, a state forest ranger responded to a call Saturday about a hiker who had reportedly died on Cascade Mountain, which is a popular summit in the Adirondack High Peaks. 2 hikers who called 911 also told a steward on the mountain summit that they were lost. The steward determined, quote, the hikers were in an altered mental state, according to this Department of Environmental Conservation agency. The supposedly dead person called and was not injured. The ranger escorted the 2 hikers down to an ambulance, which took them to the hospital and brought the third person to the group's campsite where they all later were able to meet up.
Okay.
That's the story.
Well, take less shrooms next time, I guess. I don't know what to say.
Here's my thing. Any hallucinogenic drug, mushrooms, acid, anything like that, where you're going to be tripping balls and hallucinate and see crazy shit, I feel like you should stay home in a locked house for that,
I agree.
right? The last thing that I want to do is go out into public after having taken drugs, and that also means like on a mountaintop.
No, you don't want to be out there because anything can happen, right?
You're going to hallucinate like a grizzly bear attacking you, Bigfoot. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you could think you could fly off a mountain top. I don't know.
Anytime I've dabbled, now this is when I was younger. I haven't for quite a while, but anytime I've dabbled with anything like that, I want to stay home, have a fixed environment, stay at the house. I don't want to go ride around. I don't want to get in a car with anybody. I don't want new people to come over. I don't want to go see people. I don't want to do any of that because you never know what's going to happen.
I need to stay home because I'm going to need to have a bathroom because they make my tummy hurt, mushrooms. I can't even.
Oh my gosh.
I'll spend all night in the toilet. So I can't go anywhere anyway, unless somebody wants to take me out in public so I can shit myself. That's why I don't like hallucinogenics, Dylan. All right. So there has been a lot of talk about this guy named Grant Harden, who has been described as Devil in the Ozarks.
Oh,
He
Lord.
is a convicted murderer and former police chief. And he escaped from prison and has been on the run for like a couple of weeks now.
Now, is it? Oh, okay. Yeah, I did hear about this one.
You did?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, The Arkansas Department of Correction, they have released a new photo rendering of 56-year-old Grant Harden that depicts how he may look after he escaped May 25th from the Calico Rock prison. The rendering shows Harden with some hair on his head and face. Authorities have said Harden escaped by donning an outfit designed to look like a law enforcement uniform.
Yes, I did hear about this, and I could not, for the life of me, imagine how he got enough materials to even make something close to looking like, so I guess an officer saw him on the camera and let him through the door, out the security doors.
I just imagine Tim Gunn's there in the prison like, these are the materials you have. Make it work. Make it work.
But I could not imagine how he came up with enough stuff to make a fake uniform that was that convincing even at a glance on video.
Quite innovative, Dylan. Officials are focusing their search on the north central Arkansas region where the prison is located. Tips from elsewhere about potential Harden sightings have come in, but so far none of those have panned out. Harden is a former police chief in the small town of Gateway near the Arkansas-Missouri border, and he was serving lengthy sentences for murder and rape. He is also the subject of a TV documentary called Devil in the Ozarks.
Have you ever seen that?
I have not.
I'm not familiar with this case originally.
Harden was housed in a maximum security wing of the primarily medium security prison, which is formerly known as the North Central Unit. Officials are investigating whether a job Harden held in the kitchen aided in his escape, including whether that gave him access to some of those materials that he used to fashion his uniform.
Okay. They've got to stop shipping produce in correctional officers' shirts. That's step one.
Well, I mean, we're kind of making light of it, but this guy's a dangerous criminal, and the background as a former law enforcement officer and his history of working for multiple law enforcement agencies, that gives him knowledge and skills that enable him to exploit weaknesses in these like investigators, the law enforcement who are searching for him. He can exploit their weaknesses because he knows their methods and what they're going to be trying to utilize to find him.
Well, it's what they always say is prisoners have nothing but time on their hands to figure out patterns and the weaknesses in any given jail's security system or prison. So, and like you said, he has a specific set of skills that make him very dangerous on the run. He knows what to do, not to do. And having a nickname like Devil in the Ozarks, I mean, God, he's the last person you want out there running around.
Absolutely. I mean, he sounds like a fucking menace, right?
Yes.
He's a very dangerous person. All right, Dylan, we have a story. Actually, our friend Amy sent this to us. It is from our hometown back in Waynesville, North Carolina.
Okay. Hey, Amy.
A Waynesville man is behind bars facing multiple rape, kidnapping, and firearms charges. He's accused of kidnapping a 29-year-old woman from Asheville and holding her captive for more than 4 months, with most of that time being in Haywood County.
Jesus.
Winston Eccleston, 26, of Waynesville, was arrested on May 22nd and charged with first-degree kidnapping by the Buncombe County Sheriff's Office. His charges continued to rack up last week. Maggie Valley Police brought charges of first-degree kidnapping and second-degree forcible rape. That same day, Haywood County Sheriff's Office filed a slew of its own charges against Eccleston: first-degree kidnapping, second-degree forcible rape, possession of a firearm with an altered serial number, and 3 counts of possession of a firearm by a felon. These arrest warrants from the Haywood County Sheriff's Office and the Maggie Valley Police Department state that the victim was kidnapped for, quote, the purpose of subjecting the victim for sexual servitude.
God, what a weirdo.
Additional charges may be filed as this investigation continues to move forward. Now, the victim's ordeal ended when she reportedly escaped and made her way to the Waynesville Police Department.
Sounds right by where we used to live.
The assistant police chief, Josh Schick, I'll get that out. I actually know Josh Schick. He went to my high school. Happened to be outside with Detective Eric Batchelor when the victim arrived. A vehicle pulled up and stopped behind the police station. So the two walked up to see, why this car is blocking traffic. This police station is located kind of like right in downtown Waynesville. Pretty heavily trafficked throughway.
Right.
Yeah. So they go up to see what's going on and let them know, hey, you've got 5 or 6 cars behind you. You need to move it along. That's when the girl just jumped out of the car and looked like she was about to cry. They asked if everything is all right. And then she broke down and started telling them the story.
So she drove the car? She was driving the car?
Well, it sounds like someone maybe gave her a ride there.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. It's not really going into great detail here, Dylan. I'm just guessing.
Okay.
Now, the two quickly grasp what's happening, hearing these events. And since they transpired outside of the city limits, the case was not in Waynesville Police Department's jurisdiction. So that's when the sheriff's office was called to take over. So when they finally were able to get her name and birth date, they found she was missing in Asheville in Buncombe County. They let her come inside. They gave her some water, let her relax, made her feel like she's safe.
Yeah.
Right?
God, what an ordeal she's been through.
So a sheriff's deputy picked her up, took her to the sheriff's office where she met with detectives from Haywood and Buncombe counties. The victim was allegedly kidnapped from Buncombe County on January 8th. Maggie Valley's charges are listed for January 9th, meaning within a day of her kidnapping. She'd been brought from Buncombe to Maggie Valley. So there's this extended period of time that she's being held against her will, and the majority of that time she was in the Maggie Valley area. The police chief, Matthew Boger, actually I know him as well. His wife's really sweet. Boger wouldn't give details of what her time being held captive was like or where exactly she was kept in Maggie Valley. But court records indicate that Eccleston and another woman were evicted from the Cool Breeze campground in Maggie Valley in March, and that they owed $1,600 in unpaid rent, which was the equivalent of 4 months' rent at this campground.
Damn. Get evicted from a campground. How trashy is that?
So this means Eccleston had been living at the campground since at least the beginning of the year, and including at that time that the victim was taken and was reported missing. So it almost sounds like maybe he was keeping her at this campground.
Now, how
in a camper or in a tent? I'm not sure.
Damn. That's crazy if that's the case.
His current address on his most recent arrests is Haven on the Hill campground, which is in the Balsam area. The campground was allegedly set up for hurricane flood victims. Previous arrests indicate that he's also lived in Asheville and Canton in the last decade. And at the end of April, Eccleston went in front of a magistrate and took out a criminal summons on another individual for alleged assault, described in the document as a push. So you're telling me this motherfucker has the audacity to go take a warrant out for assault when somebody had pushed him, and he's got a damn victim,
a sex slave,
tied up somewhere in his damn camper.
Now this
for months.
Now we've heard reports from people locally in that area that very unsavory characters.
That Haven on the Hill has kind of become overrun with.
Yeah, these
unsavory folks who are unhoused.
Yes, and these were meant obviously for the hurricane victims displaced by the hurricane that happened some months ago. And then, unfortunately, these very bad people, quickly just kind of squeeze their way in there amongst regular folk. And it's very disturbing.
Well, as much as we want to... assign these stories to unhoused folks like, well, they're just struggling to make ends meet and they're unhoused or whatever. A lot of those unhoused folks in Haywood County are shitbirds.
They don't want to be housed.
They're shitbirds.
See, that's the thing.
We have friends that work in the homeless industry, if you will, that have tried to help these folks. They don't want help.
It is an industry. A lot of people are tied up in these nonprofits, we've
spent billions.
They get their salaries,
billions of dollars, and we're not really making any headway.
And I think they know that they're not making headway. I think some of them know. I think if some people work in that industry truly are trying to help, but you got to recognize that some people don't want help. And if you've been unhoused for 5 or 10 years, dude. You don't want to be a responsible citizen. You don't want to work a job. You don't want to have to pay your bills.
You want to be a free bird.
You want to be a free bird and just go around, do whatever you want. And you're going to play on people's emotions to get any help or assistance you can to continue living that lifestyle. They're never going to change. And people need to recognize that. And they need to separate those groups of the people who truly do need help, a hand up, and want to get back on their feet, which some of them are that way. But a lot of the people, these chronically homeless people, do not want to be a part of society, a functioning part of society.
No, and a lot of these shelters, halfway houses, that type of thing require you to be sober, and they refuse to do it.
Yeah, and see that what they in the industry, what do they call that? What do they call a shelter that has rules? And they call it something that. And some people were proponents of places not having
Low barrier.
Low barrier. Yeah, that's it. A low barrier shelter.
Yeah, we had a friend that was operated a nonprofit in town when we lived in Waynesville, and she was a big proponent of the low barrier shelters. But a lot of folks are against that because it's just an unregulated kind of free for all where people can come camp or whatever. There are no rules, there's no supervision, and with that comes drugs, violence, rapes, crime.
Yeah. Just general unsanitary.
Well, it's a complicated issue, and I don't mean to sound heartless, but I just have kind of been around the edges of this, and we've volunteered and we've tried to help our community, and I've served at soup kitchens and that kind of thing. And, I've just seen firsthand that it's not all just poor single moms with kids on the streets.
No.
So anyway, this guy, he's at this place that has kind of become, I guess, known for some unsavory activity. Now, he seemed to be in possession of a 9mm semi-automatic handgun, an AR-15 style assault rifle, and a .22 long caliber rifle semi-automatic handgun. The 9mm handgun allegedly had the serial number scratched off. Now, he's a felon, so he's not supposed to have these weapons.
Right.
His status as a felon, which prohibits him from possessing the firearm, comes from a guilty plea to a felony obstruction of justice charge that was filed back in 2016 when he was just 17 years old. Now, this charge was related to an involuntary manslaughter and child abuse case where a 3-month-old baby was left face down on a pillow, unable to breathe, and that eventually led to a brain injury that resulted in the infant's death. The involuntary manslaughter and child abuse charges were dropped, however.
What the hell?
Yeah, so I was reading further about the story, and it seems like after this child, which I believe was his baby, passed away, like he went on the run and was like hiding to avoid any kind of arrest. And so he was like on the run for a minute, which doesn't look good.
No.
Because if it's an accidental situation, you should just come clean and say, hey, this happened.
Right.
But when you run, that definitely makes you look like you did this intentionally.
You should be like, I was scared.
Well, anyway, this guy sounds like a real piece of work.
Sounds like a piece of shit. And thank God this poor woman escaped and made her way to get help.
It's a very scary. And it just makes you wonder, like, how could he keep her for all that time when it sounds like he was living in a campground where you feel like there's probably going to be other people. There are a lot of folks who live year round in the campground or who come up seasonally and stay,
They typically have people,
snowbirds and that kind of thing.
Supervisors, staff there at the campground. So if that's indeed the case, I can't imagine how he was keeping her restrained and quiet.
It's just really scary. And to think that that's happened in our own backyard, Dylan.
I'm telling you what.
What are you telling me?
There seems to be a lot of bad things starting to happen in that area. So,
speaking of unhoused folks, Dylan, there was a story in the news about 11 who were stabbed at a homeless men's shelter in Oregon.
I saw that.
So 11 people were stabbed at a men's homeless shelter in Oregon in a scene that a witness described as something out of a, quote, horror movie.
God, could you imagine?
No. A male suspect is in custody following the incident. This was at the Union Gospel Mission of Salem, according to the Salem Police Department. It sounds like everybody was trying to move out of this guy's way when he started attacking them. Bobby Epperly, who lives at the mission, also told the newspaper that was reporting on this, the Statesman Journal, that he saw a man outside screaming at traffic and wielding a knife. And then inside the building, Epperly said he observed blood everywhere. Scary stuff, dude.
Yeah, I just wouldn't even know what to think if I was came upon a scene like that.
The Union Gospel Mission of Salem is a faith-based nonprofit that provides shelter and services for the homeless, and they did not immediately respond to this for comment. 11 people received medical care for various injuries, and as I mentioned before, the suspect has been arrested. It sounds like the stabbing began near the building's front entrance, and people were targeted inside and even outside the facility. Witnesses described hearing screaming. One witness said he was standing at the front desk. He was no more than 10 feet away, and he saw the suspect stab one of the staff members.
Man, it just goes to show you when somebody wants to attack people, it just doesn't matter what they have at hand to harm people with.
It's real. I mean, this kind of thing is really scary.
Yeah.
You know, and possibly the suspect was suffering from some kind of mental illness or having some sort of psychotic break. But let's be honest, that's not an excuse to go around stabbing people.
No. I mean, even if you're in the middle of a mental health crisis, I'm going to hit you in the head, bro. I mean, I hate to say it.
You going to hit him in the head? What are you going to hit him with?
With something?
You going to hit him with the left?
Anything.
You going to hit him with a right?
I'm going to hit you with an object.
Pick up a trash can?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Start stabbing people. Man, get away from me with that craziness.
Oh, I don't want to be stabbed.
No. See, that scares me worse than being shot.
It does?
I hate it when I cut myself. I just hate the idea of being
This
stabbed.
really sounds painful.
No.
Look, I'm too much of a pussy to get stabbed. Don't stab me.
That's why I'm going to hit
Don't
you.
Don't stab me, bro.
I'm hitting you with a trash can, bro.
I'm take my shoe off and hit you or something.
Damn. That's scary, though.
That's why I wear big chunky boots.
Man,
in case I need to unzip it and spin it around my head like a helicopter and whack somebody with it like it's a mace.
I saw this video. This guy's like, there's an older gentleman approaching him with a hatchet. And he's like getting out of his car. He's like, oh, you're going to hit me with a hatchet now? And he starts filming him. Now, people some think, and it looks like the guy hauls off and whacks him with the hatchet because the guy starts an unholy scream and the phone falls down and the guy like gets in his car and like tears out of there. A phone is not a shield. People seem to think that everyone cares about being filmed or, that you're going to have proof of them doing whatever. Some people don't give a damn about that stuff, especially if somebody's unhinged. And you can't just hold your phone up and be like, oh, yeah.
I'm sure the hatchet-wielding man was really concerned about his image being floated.
He was not at all.
Yeah.
He hit him with a hatchet. Folks. Yeah. So people need to stop that shit. Like a phone is the end-all, be-all to conflict.
You better run, bitch. Run.
I'm not going to try to film you.
Now, Dylan, a little bit of a lighter note here.
Okay.
A tired California dad out on a routine walk with his newborn baby had the police called on him by a concerned neighbor who feared he had kidnapped the child.
Okay.
Let's get into this. 33-year-old Chapman Hamburg, what a name, Chapman Hamburg, was walking around his neighborhood in Huntington Beach with his daughter Florence in a baby wrap carrier on April 22nd, as he had done multiple times before kind of giving his wife a little bit of a break. He didn't bother changing out of his clothes that he had on that day, which consisted of a baggy brown Patagonia jacket, some stained jeans, and some tattered slippers when he embarked on this walk. I mean, he's looking a little bit, shaggy in appearance, but nothing crazy. I mean, if anything, he just sort of looks like a Crunchy Grooves guy to me.
Right. According
to the picture. But his Crunchy Grooves appearance apparently led a lady to mistake him for a homeless man and call the cops. On this father of four, stating that she believed this homeless man had stolen a newborn, and then allegedly followed Hamburg back to his home.
Well, I guess the neighbor thought they were doing the right thing, if you will, but sometimes people can go too far with that. Like, mind your own business.
I mean, the guy said, he was surprised that all of his neighbors hadn't seen him and recognized him by now because he, is quite frequently walking in the neighborhood. Authorities later arrived at Hamburg's home and questioned him over this daily walk. They asked him, where are you going for a walk? Is this your baby or something? Your neighbor saw you and thought you were homeless. And he was like, nope, not homeless, just a tired dad of four.
Oh my gosh.
So he's an artist and an art teacher in Huntington Beach, and he shared this video on social media that racked up over 50 million views since late April. But, I mean, the young dad, he didn't really stress too much over it. He made a lot of the situation. It seems like he had a pretty good sense of humor about it. And he said, quote, apparently I need to work on my appearance. I guess being an artist or a tired dad isn't a valid excuse.
Damn.
He also never received an apology from the neighbor. He's unsure who called. But he did say he saw a woman sitting in her car across from his house while he was speaking to the police officer. So he thinks this must be the neighbor. And he says he would like to meet her, and not to shame her, but just like, thank you for being vigilant just in case.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, he's pretty open-minded about the situation, it seems like.
Man, depending on where he posted that, he made some money on that.
He made some other video, like a follow-up, where he asked his older kids if they agreed that he looked homeless while he was wearing that same outfit from the original post, and his kids all agreed. He also addressed some of the critics who had attacked him over his appearance. He said some of the comments were a little mean, like, quote, have some self-respect. How you walking out in public like that? And he's like, look, when my baby's crying, I'm focused on comforting my baby and not what I look like.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But yeah, I don't know. Pretty amusing situation, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I guess. Just trying to walk my baby, bud.
Just trying to walk his baby.
Yeah. And he's probably half asleep and tired.
He looked a little disheveled, like he's tired.
Newborns will do you like that.
Well, and 4 kids will do you like that.
It will.
3 kids plus a newborn. That's
a lot of
gotta,
kids.
Man, I was at the pool the other day, just relaxing, getting my sun on. And there was a lady there, and she was quite young. I mean, when I say quite young, I think, she might have been in her late 20s, early 30s. Really cute. She actually reminded me of Reese Witherspoon. I kept thinking, dang, girl, you look just like Reese Witherspoon. Cute as a button, this lady. And she had like 4 or 5 kids, like stair steps, and was pregnant.
Damn.
And they were all little boys at the pool. And, she's trying to wrangle them. I was watching her try to wrangle these kids as she's leaving trying to leave.
Right.
And these like, I want to say it was 5 little boys. And she's all, got them they all have a little assigned chore, what they need to grab. And she's got a little one on her hip and probably 7-8 months pregnant and wrangling these other, 4 or so little boys around.
Damn.
And I was like, man, that is a woman who has got her hands full.
That's a full-time job.
I know. I was like going to offer, like, do you need some help? As she was trying to, but man, she had them like little soldiers, like
boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. Like everybody had an assigned chore to get up all their stuff.
Well, good. At least she's got them in line.
Look, it made me tired just watching this woman.
It's tough.
Made me tired. Dylan, let's wrap up with a story that I know a lot of folks are concerned about. It's been making the rounds. We're big King of the Hill fans. We love King of the Hill.
Love it.
It's so funny, and we hear there's a reboot coming.
Yes, on Hulu.
We cannot wait.
Yes, Discord James pointed it out the other day.
Hank Hill is amazing. Do you have a favorite character on King of the Hill?
I like them all in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jonathan Joss, he is the voice of John Redcorn on King of the Hill.
Since season 3.
Okay. And he was recently shot in Texas.
This is a crazy story.
Yeah, so his husband has been making the rounds on social media and in interviews saying that he believes this was a hate crime. So like I said, the 59-year-old was shot by a neighbor, and his husband is saying, he believes this was a hate crime, that they were targeted by homophobic neighbors.
Right.
But police say there's no evidence of this, and there's been a lot of information come out surrounding this death and just maybe the lifestyle that Joss was living. So let's talk a little bit about this. Let's unpack it. Now, according to neighbors, on Sunday evening in San Antonio, 59-year-old Josh was storming up and down the street, screaming expletives. We'll get that out.
He is cussing.
With a pitchfork in hand when Sigfredo Ceja Alvarez, who lives 50 yards from the Joss's property, allegedly confronted him with a loaded rifle. The two started arguing in Joss's driveway, and before long, shots rang out and the actor lay dying on the pavement.
Damn.
Alvarez allegedly told police, quote, "I shot him after being arrested in the killing." He posted a $200,000 bond and was released on house arrest, it sounds like the next night. Now, Joss's husband said the killing was a result of years of homophobia and that Seha laughed and sneered homosexual slurs over Joss's dying body after this deadly argument. But cops have said there is no evidence that Joss's sexuality played a role in the killing. Now, neighbors say the shooting was just the culmination of years of increasingly violent confrontations between these two men, which included both menacing each other with weapons and discharging guns to intimidate. One of the neighbors said, quote, "I've been here 6 years, and when we moved in, it was already going on. So it's just been years of feud between these two. Weapons, everything, gun shootings all the time, all hours of the night. Just shooting rounds at their own property and stuff." Quote, "You could just hear the multiple rounds just blowing off on both ends, as he would be yelling a lot, explaining that the men never fired at each other, but that the rounds sometimes hit other holes." This witness says she has bullet holes in her house from these ongoing disputes.
Man, these neighbor feuds are so scary when they keep on and on like this.
Other neighbors said that they have seen Joss stalking about the neighborhood with weapons like a crossbow in his hands while screaming, that was a pretty common sight. He would climb up on his roof like in the middle of the night and be screaming and carrying on, banging pots and pans.
Yeah, so
like
what?
Waking up neighbors.
Who doesn't do that?
So problems between Joss and Alvarez were so well known and reported that San Antonio Fear-Free Environment, which is a police division tasked with localized neighborhood crime prevention, had been assigned to mediate this feud over a year ago. And in total, police responded to the street over incidents involving Joss at least 40 times since January of 2024.
That's a lot.
But neighbors say nothing changed, like even with this heavy police involvement and this mediation that was supposed to be going on.
So nothing changed on either side as far as the feud was concerned.
One of the neighbors said that she wasn't really taking anybody's side because she has reports on both of these neighbors and that nothing got done, and that she does believe that Joss should be alive today, but that nothing got done when she tried to call and get some help for the neighborhood. Joss's husband, Tristan Kern D. Gonzalez, claims that Alvarez and other neighbors harassed them for years because of their sexuality, and that the alleged killer laughed and sneered homosexual slurs over Joss's dying body after this deadly argument. So Gonzalez says he and Joss had gone to this property Sunday to collect a fire victim's check from extensive damage the home suffered in February. But while they were there, they found the bones of a beloved pet dog that died in the blaze, and that the bones were displayed out front of the house.
Well, that's weird.
Now, Gonzalez has also tried to accuse the neighbors of setting this house on fire, but the story is that the house was condemned and by the city or whatever, deemed uninhabitable. So they cut the electricity and water off to this property. And Joss had brought in some kind of grill into the home to heat the house, and it caught the house on fire.
So before the house was even burned, it was condemned by the county?
Yes. So, again, the husband is claiming that this fire was destroyed by bigoted neighbors, but residents, again, are disputing this, saying that no, he said it himself while he was trying to heat the home with this barbecue grill. The city had shut down these services over the conditions of the home. And it does sound like this voice actor, had fallen on hard times recently. He was struggling to earn money after losing his longtime home. There were reports that, I guess, just days before he passed away, he was doing some kind of meet and greet in like Austin, Texas, and was complaining that he had to ride a Greyhound bus there to the meet and greet, and then didn't have a ride home back to San Antonio, which Austin and San Antonio are like not that far away. It's like maybe a little over an hour drive, but he didn't have a vehicle. He didn't have any way of getting home, and that he was on social media like begging for someone to come pick him up and drive him to San Antonio.
Damn.
Back home.
That's sad.
But he spent years as the voice of John Redcorn, he was on the show Parks and Recreation with Amy Poehler. That was a pretty popular show. He's been on the Sylvester Stallone Tulsa King show, and then he's had quite a few movie appearances. I mean, I don't know what went down here, but it just sort of sounds to me like the husband is possibly in denial about what happened. I mean, just because you are a member of a marginalized community and something happens to you, that doesn't automatically mean that it's a hate crime.
Right. We don't know that it wasn't.
Right.
But we don't know that it was
But it
either.
doesn't sound exactly like that's what happened. And it does not sound exactly like Joss was innocent in all of this. And did he deserve to be shot and killed? No. But it does sound like, you know, he's been menacing this neighbor in this neighborhood for quite a while.
Well, it sounds like they were mincing each other.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and I tell you, there's some series about these neighborhood disputes, and they get so ridiculous. And the cops come, you know, time after time, and nothing can make them stop when they both want to keep on like this. And it's just insane. The stories and what people will do to each other when you're living right next door to each other. It's just crazy.
Well, and I think most everyone knows, like, you cannot bring a barbecue grill inside a home to heat the house. I mean, that's like a number one in winter when you talk about fire safety. That's like one of the number one things that fire departments and like emergency services tell you is do not bring a grill into your home to try to heat the house if the power goes out.
Well, no, I mean, it's going to have a carbon
very
monoxide.
But it also makes me wonder, like, how bad was the condition of this home to be deemed uninhabitable
Before the fire even
happened.
Yeah, I know. I mean, so there seems to be a lot more to this story.
And he's a working actor, so he's making some money. It just makes you wonder, like, where did that money go? What was going on?
Right.
And I'm not saying this man was, you know, under the influence, but it does sound like some of this erratic behavior, it sounds like possibly there were drugs involved. I mean, or there was some significant, like, mental illness. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what was happening, but seems to be an ongoing story, and this is just the sad end of it.
And it is very sad. I mean, again, no one deserves to lose their life, but these neighborhood disputes, as you mentioned, they can rage out of control.
Now, if this was motivated by hate, homophobia, or anything like that, I hope it comes out, and I hope whoever, you know, did anything like that pays for it big time.
Agreed, Dylan.
Yeah.
But according to law enforcement, they have found no evidence of that.
Yeah, but I mean, what would they know?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, seriously, like, no one's going to admit to it. And if that guy did say some crazy shit after he shot this man, he's not going to admit it. But then also, all we have is the word of his husband. You know, so I mean, it's a really tricky situation.
Well, I think you've got a trail, a paper trail, with these calls, these visits, this back and forth. So, I mean, maybe they're kind of deeming a lot of information from witnesses and from this paper trail where it's been heavily documented that there have been these issues for years.
Well, that's true. And I would hate to think that all the neighbors are homophobic. So surely somebody would say, yeah, that guy screams, you know.
Well, it kind of sounds to me like maybe the neighbors were just more irritated with the behavior.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying surely if even multiple neighbors were saying crazy shit or slurs, surely someone would be like, yeah, I heard them say it. There would be evidence, a witness or someone. Surely everyone in earshot of that property can't all be homophobic. I mean, I'm going to guess it's not an entire neighborhood of homophobes.
Well, and I would imagine there's got to be some possible, like, surveillance.
It looks like pretty big, nice houses in that neighborhood.
Because most people today have some kind of security camera, ring camera, Nest, something like that outside of their home. So I'm also wondering if maybe some video was captured from some of those cameras and maybe law enforcement is able to use that to kind of piece together what happened. Either way, it's a tragedy. I just think it's interesting how a lot of times news media will pick up something and they'll run with it without really investigating. And then later you find these articles where there's more information but they don't really retract the original statements
Right.
that just sort of sensationalized.
Oh, I can tell you on
This
social
murder.
media, there's a very specific narrative going around, and that
Well, yeah,
people
because when I first heard this, I thought, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Like, this is absolutely horrible, you know? And like, I don't support hate crimes. I mean,
No.
you know what I'm saying? But to play the devil's advocate, once I learned more information, I was like, okay, well, this doesn't exactly sound like what I initially thought it was.
right.
That this man was targeted and killed because he was gay. So, anyway, that's going to wrap up our midweek, sometime this week, news recap, Dylan.
Now they're going to have to find a new John Redcorn, not to be crass, but
Crass.
crass. They were doing a reboot, and he wasn't going to be part of that. And I wonder how they're going to handle that in the reboot in the show. They're going to write John Redcorn out of it, or just
Well, and it's sad
replace-
because it sounds like this opportunity came at a time when he really needed it,
Yeah, I know.
when he was financially
That's what I was
struggling,
thinking,
and this
too.
is a good opportunity for him to maybe, you know, get himself out of financial trouble, maybe
That-
get another house, rebuild, that kind of thing. So it's really just really tragic all around.
That's what I thought too. This might have been, no matter what was going on in his life, this might have been like a saving grace for this reboot to finally get greenlit, and maybe it might have been a chance for him to get his situation straightened out and improve his life for him and his partner, and then have this craziness happen. No matter what it is,
Right.
it's unfortunate what happened. So it's just sad, really is.
I'm gonna make a T-shirt now that says like I don't support hate crimes.
Yeah, you should.
We should make an I don't support hate crimes T-shirt.
Yeah.
Because the fact that I had to say that, I felt like I needed to explain that
No.
like I don't support hate crimes.
And all our hundreds of hours of episodes, I don't think at one time did we ever support hate crimes.
No, I think maybe our listeners know we're a little bit more progressive than that.
Right.
But we're also, you know, a little rooted in reality. So
All right. So until next time,
don't support hate crimes.
don't support hate crimes, and we will see you next time with a regular episode.
And don't freak out when you hear bagpipes.
no,
It should
man.
not be a trigger.
Just let them pipe. And if you don't like it, go the other way.
Shred the pipes, bro.
How often do you see somebody playing bagpipes in public?
I want to know if it's difficult. That's my question. Is it a difficult instrument to learn?
They look hard.
Because I think taking up bagpipes at my middle age would be fun,
Yeah.
and I would love to serenade you
Okay.
while you try to nap
We'll look into that.
after your odd work hours.
Thanks.
I'll be practicing bagpipes at like 4 p.m. when you're trying to sleep.
Well, I'm going to attack you and my bankruptcy judge husband then.
You wish you had a bankruptcy judge husband. He
All
probably
right.
wouldn't marry you because you're about to be bankrupt, bro.
I'm not.
He'd be like, you too poor.
I ain't going to be bankrupt. I'm good.
You teetering on the edge.
Nah.
Okay. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.